Hello everyone, this is Charlotte and this is a podcast called Chatting in Cars. This is where I talk about random topics and try not to hit people with my car while I'm driving. There is a disclaimer at the start of this podcast because I do swear profusely and colourfully and it's lovely and I love doing it. I also talk about I also talk about suggestive topics that some people can't handle. And it's okay if you want to turn it off now because some of these are really sensitive and you probably don't want to hear about it. And even though the podcast might be labelled one thing, sometimes it changes. So I do go off on tangents and I'm unapologetic for that because I'm old. And I just don't care. Alright, so disclaimer out of the way. Responsibility off my shoulders. It's on you now, guys. The topic for today is spending time alone, or the value of alone. This is okay if you don't mind being alone. It's natural to introverts, I find. Some people are afraid of being alone. This is where it gets a bit complicated because supposedly humans are social beings. We exist in colonies of humans, much like ants. We don't necessarily have a queen unless it's a socially, abstractly allocated one. Allocated? We didn't vote for it. Sorry, I'm having Monty Python flashbacks. I didn't vote for him. But no, we tend to live in groups, don't we? I mean, we all sort of, if you look at the geographic side of things, we tend to cluster around coastal cities. It's rare that people go out into the middle of God knows where to populate an area. We all sort of cluster together because, needs and wants. All the facilities tend to be in the same area, so people cluster around the facility. So at some point, you're going to have to run into another one of you running around. Humanoids. Which is perfect if you've got one of those extroverted social skills types of personalities. Being autistic, I don't really have the social skills, but I'm placed in scenarios where I have to interact with people, so I've had to, learn the rules of interactions with people, and it's a bit hit and miss sometimes, even now, and I'm nearly 40, so it's been very interesting, and sometimes very painful. But I do value being alone. To me, it's just it's just less complicated than trying to sort out how you need to behave in front of certain people, and to the extent where you don't want to offend them, but at the same time you don't want to be ostracized. And I never really felt any kind of need to belong. Some people might put that down to being a Sigma. If you're going that way, Sigma is people who sort of find happiness in themselves. They don't need other people to feel good about themselves. I mean, if you take that to the extreme, you might be a narcissist. So I need to be wary of that and, learn and make sure I use humility in the way I approach life. Because I am amazing, of course. But I've just never really felt. I mean, it might be part of introversion as well. I've always been happy on my own. I've never really. I think, to be honest, I would prefer, if I have to interact with one people, it be with just one other person. Because more than that, and it just gets complicated, doesn't it? Too many people, too many cooks in the kitchen. You've got to know what one wants and the other wants, and you've got to get it right. And if you're trying not to hurt other people's feelings, and it's just a lot of mess. And I grew up in a big household. What I would deem a big household. There was 6 of us crammed into that 4-bedroom house. It wasn't fun. So, I'm used to, and I don't like it now, to be honest, but growing up, I had to get used to people being in my space. I mean, I shared a bedroom for the majority of my life with one of my either my older sibling or my younger sibling. 3 girls in a row. It was either going to be, your older girl sister as opposed to your boy sister. This is all confusing, gender norms and labels. But I never really got time to myself until my older 2 siblings moved out the house. So, and even then, it wasn't long before I moved out with my now ex-husband, as we moved out at 19 into a share house with him and his Navy friends. So, I think maybe in total I've lived alone for all of maybe 3 years. It's crazy. Some people get to live alone a lot, and these are the ones that often get lonely. And I'm sitting there thinking, are you sure you're lonely? You're just not appreciating the quiet and the stillness, and the not having to put up with other people's shit. their horrible habits and things. You know, I've got my sister over at the moment till next Thursday, and I'm looking forward to getting my space back severely. I don't know how I managed to live with 5 other people in that house alongside her as well, because I'm afraid she's as annoying as shit. But that's siblings, isn't it? I mean, anyone who's got a sibling can point out a flaw in their sibling and go, oh, that's what makes you so fucking annoying. Or, you know, if you've been married, I know when I was married, I'm like, oh, that's why you're annoying. Like my ex-husband used to leave like little piles of toenails places. I know, he's fucking disgusting. It was the tip of the iceberg stuff. The fact that the house was like littered with plates and dishes and, you know, food wrappers and shit, and he'd just leave it in piles on tables and things. And of course, me being the good little housewife, went around and picked it up after him. That, and I have mild OCD, and I can't live like that. I can't. The filth, it's disgusting to me. My house is pretty orderly without him. I love it. I've got it just how I like it. But no, it's, you know, it's a blessing in the end. If you're anything like me and you just like your alone time, you're quiet. And I've been labelled a Sigma. I don't know if it's anything as confined as that, to be honest. That you can put a label on it, because it's you know, it's the collection of experiences and things we've had turn us into what kind of person we are. Some people love to live in groups. My brother, for example, can't handle being alone. And so even when he's going on a car trip, he'll try and get me to go along as well. I mean, I was his pet since birth, so I don't mind going out with him, as long as he's stringent on where he's going, because it tends to be a case of, we're going here. And then he changes his mind, and after we've got there, he'll go, oh, we're going here as well, and then we're going here as well. And we'll end up taking, you know, half a day on a trip that should have been maybe an hour, just because he is ADHD and he cannot just stick with one plan. He's always changing stuff. So when I go out with the directive of, we're going here, we're doing this, and we're coming back. That's my directive. I make a plan and I tend to stick with it. It's usually something outlandish that makes that change stop. It's like, I don't go to places just to hang around and, yeah, I'll see what happens sort of shit. It's like, no, I went out with a purpose and I'm coming back. Once I've done that, I'm probably going to get home, strip off, and just sit in front of the TV. You know, it's just, my plans are very simple. I like to keep them simple. And if you do tend to be like me and you walk around your house, you know, semi-naked, it's probably best that you do live alone, or at least be with a partner or someone who lives with you who's supportive of your, you know, quirks. My ex-husband used to hate me wandering around half naked. I'd be wandering around in my underwear, and I'm sitting there thinking, ooh, sexy times, husband, yeah, gonna get that husband-y. No, he hated it. I don't know why. I'm not that hideous, right? I didn't think I was at that time. I might have been, I don't know. It's up to the eye of the beholder, isn't it? But if you're, you know, with someone and you're married to them, I would assume you'd be sexually attracted to them, right? But no, these days, me walking around half naked is more just because it's comfortable. I don't know if you need to hear this, to be honest. Sadly, it's like, I don't even know you. Why are you telling me this? Just going off on a whim. Random ramblings. But, you know, I've noticed that guys tend to walk around in their underwear as well when they're alone. Because I've got a lot of guy friends. I don't have a lot of girlfriends because girls give me the shits, to be honest. But I've always had guy friends, and they tend to walk around in their underwear, and I'm like, yeah, alright, dude, that sounds pretty comfy. I'll do the same. It's like, because I was raised a guy. I'm biologically a girl. I don't identify as a guy. If you want to go norms and gender and all that shit, I know because I've got an innie. And every month I'm reminded I'm a girl. It's like, oh shit, I forgot. No, here I am to remind you of the gifts you were given. In a weird and horrible way, and yet you should be grateful. And I am. It's a miracle. Oh, and a mess. But you know, it's just a comfortable thing to do, and I'm sure there's plenty of people that walk around, you know, half naked as well. And that is one of the perks of living alone. You don't have to worry about people. I mean, you make sure your curtains are closed, yeah, but fuck it, you can do whatever the fuck you want. If you want to be Matthew McConaughey, he used to play, bongo drums in the nude or something like that. Although why he was doing it on his balcony for everyone to see, I don't know. That's just him, he's a bit odd. But the comfort of living alone is you can, or being alone, is you can get your habits. Ooh, look, trucks. Apparently we're moving demountables, apparently, and I'm wedged between two of them. Great, this will take a while. But perks of living alone, you can get your own systems underway. I mean, I've got autism, so I have particular systems that I like to do, and it's based on efficiency. To be downright honest, it's not to do with me being some anal bitch that has to have her way. It's efficiency all the time. I have particular places. I like things clean. I run a tight ship. I like it the way it is because the way I was raised is, you know, militaristic. And if you sort your kit, you look after your kit looks after you. That's what we do. I'm surprised my younger sister turned out the way she did because she's a fucking mess. But she was the baby and the spoiled one. And she got away with it. Everyone else was picking up around her because they were older. But yeah, I got particular quirks. And living with my ex-husband, who was a fucking mess. He was just a slob, to be honest. We had this conversation one time and I'm sitting there going, why don't you pick up after yourself sort of thing? And he said, because it's not a priority. I'm going, what the fuck, dude? Not a priority. But then I thought, no, I'm enabling him because I keep going around after him and picking it up. So I'm glad that I left him and I didn't have to live with him anymore because it was just a nightmare. It wasn't a nightmare, it was a pain in the ass. Nightmare came after my ex-husband. Yes, that's another story. But you get your systems in play and you like your routines and you like things done just so. And you don't have to worry about compromising with someone else's quirks or habits. And you can just get shit running. Now I wonder these days, because I am still open to having another partner, another boyfriend, and hopefully eventually ending up in a husband situation. But I do wonder if they could put up with my shit. Because my last two people, and I've only had two really, besides, you know, holding hands with boys in high school. But straight out of high school, I started up with my now ex-husband, so I didn't really have a lot of people to live with as such. Would they put up with the fact that I like everything in place and clean and, you know, a particular way? I know my brother is pretty clean with his wife, and his wife's pretty anal, more anal than me, I think, about cleanliness. So even he complains that she might be a bit too anal. So I'm hoping that whoever I end up with, if I do have to live with someone again, doesn't, you know, get pissed off with me, because I think it would be a strain on the relationship. This is why I'm aiming for ex-military men, because they know my quirks, they know, probably, right? I'm assuming, although my husband was ex-Navy and he was a slob, so I don't know, it's hit and miss really, but I'm hoping, you know. That's why I was into that yoga guy, because he was ex-military. I'm like, sweet, we got stuff in common. No, he's got a girlfriend. Fuck. Damn it. So close, no cigar. But you know, it's fun living alone, because you can come and go as you please. You don't have to explain to anything. I moved in with my parents again in my early 20s. Again, I think it was 2008, when I broke up with my now ex-husband for a little bit. And it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible, because you revert to being a teen again. And my parents were the kind that barked orders at you sitting on a couch, you know? She'd sit in this, my mum particularly, my dad was fuck knows where he is. It's not like he was gallivanting around. But he was, you know, he was present, but he just wasn't a dad. He was a male. There was a male in the house. He ate the food like we ate the food. He didn't do much else besides sleep and go berserk, so it wasn't much of a father figure. But my mum would sit in this great big lazy boy, what they call him in America is lazy boys, but I don't know what they call him in Australia or England, but it's that shape. And she'd be central in front of the TV and she'd just bark orders. It was like we were paying court to her. And this is why I have a strange relationship with her now, because I can't do that. Like, for example, she's booked us all in on Wednesday for some fucking family dinner thing, and I turned it down. And I had my brother call me up and saying, are you going? And I said no, because I know as soon as I get there, it'll be a case of paying court to her. And I'm just not going to. Because if you've listened to any of the podcasts before, you'll know how I feel about these people. You've got to get around you. Got around the demountables. it was not a good relationship. Even now it's a strained relationship. Because both of them are narcs, and it's horrible to go and put on this facade that it was an okay childhood or okay teens, when realistically there are some serious scars there that have not been addressed, and they don't want to address them. So it's horrible to be around them. I don't even know if they would have the balls to address them, to be honest. My sisters and my brother just tend to go with the flow, because they just want to keep things quiet, and I don't want arguments. And I think that's honestly a trauma response, because I'm sitting there going, well, aren't we just going to talk about this at all or anything like this, and we're just going to ignore it and pretend that we're fine. And my mum, when you get there, she wants to pretend that she was this ideal mum, and I'm sitting there going, do you just not remember what you were like? And my dad is just same way. But they also sort of sign you up to shit, and you're just expected to turn up. And at the same time, I'm like, no, I'm an adult. I have a life. You can't just book me in and expect me to fucking turn up when I've got other things to do, and I don't particularly like hanging around you. And because they conditioned us to be people pleasers growing up with, you know, physical violence and psychological and emotional abuse, and I'm not talking about the, you know, the Harry side of things where it's, oh, I stubbed my toe and they picked on me. And this was serious shit. It wasn't lightly. This is what I had to go to therapy for, because I was having PTS nightmares and shit like this. I still have PTS nightmares and shit because of my dad. But they just expect us to sort of brush it under the mat. You know, it's all good. It was in the past. It's fine. It's like, it's not fucking fine. I had a nightmare the other month because of you fuckers. This is still ongoing. It's evading treatment, which is annoying. I remember I was on the couch with my ex-boyfriend at one point, and I was holding his junk and I fell asleep holding his junk, and I had a nightmare, and I woke up and nearly ripped the fucker off. Note to self, don't fall asleep holding your boyfriend's penis. Gave him a shock, but no, it was comforting when I fell asleep for me and him. But, you know, because I still get this shit from the past that haven't, you know, what am I, 37 now? Moved out at 19, 18 years ago, nearly? No, wait, my maths is off. Either way, ages ago. And you'd think it'd be gone by now, but it's not. Because it just rears its head every now and again, and you know, in the middle of the night in your subconscious, it comes back and fucks you over, and you're like, blah, blah. And I've had dreams recently where I've just been screaming and stuff like that again, and it's horrible because there's such a dark energy to the dreams, and it sits on you, and it, you know, you get sleep paralysis and shit like that as well because of these things. They stop your breathing, you can't move, and you're just screaming and stuff like that. And I mean, night before, I was screaming to my brother. I was just screaming out my brother's name, and it's horrible. And you know, you're looking for some kind of comfort in other people, and these are the people I'm supposed to be going to comfort for, but they're the people who did it. So what do? I mean, it's like, do you want to sit in a room with them, pretend that everything's fine and we're all happy? No. Will I ever move in with them again? Fuck no. Because you're about to being that teenager again. You're back to servitude, back to having no rights, and them constantly needing to know where you are and what you're doing and who you're with, and you're not doing that, and you're not allowed to do that, and you're sitting there thinking, you fuckers are fucking with my existence at this point. And so that's one of the perks of living alone. Because when I was separated from my ex-husband that year, that was 2018, I think. It's either 2018, 2019. They wanted me to come live with them, and I'm sitting there going, fuck no. So when my granddad Bob died the same year, who's not the good granddad, don't worry, they said you can move into his house and renovate it, and then you can pay rent to us. And I'm sitting there thinking, I am homeless. I have 10 grand in debt. I would appreciate if the offer wasn't laden with conditions such as me paying you more money that I don't have, whilst renovating a house that you can make money off by selling it, which they did. I didn't pay the rent in the end. I kept pushing it off, but I did renovate the house because I needed a house to live in. It was either that, because Joe's wife, my brother Joe, his wife passive aggressively kicked me out because she's like, we've got guests coming over. She's German. Got guests coming over, you need to find somewhere to go. And I'm like, I'm in a crisis situation in my life at this point, dude. I don't have anywhere to go. Please, can I sleep on your couch? She's like, no, we got guests coming over. And she kept, as I would get close to the date, she would keep reminding me, we've got guests coming over from Germany. And I'm like, fuck your guests. And I know we're not supposed to hold grudges, but I'm like, I'll remember this bitch. You don't make your sister homeless, man, when she's going through a fucking life crisis because you've got guests coming over for a few weeks. No, you don't. It seemed extreme to me. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But my brother is a bit under her thumb. So again, and I was very under my ex-husband's thumb, actually, to tell the truth. So I can't, talk shit. It's that kind of relationship. We get together with people and we lose ourselves in the relationship because we just want to be people pleasers. Like what my parents raised us to be, people pleasers and helpers and fixers and service people, where we just give up our rights and identities and try to make the other person happy. And in a romantic sense, yeah, if the other person was reciprocating, that would be great. But because we end up with these non-reciprocal people, we end up fucking ourselves in the end because we're giving and not getting anything back. And it drains you. Crushes your soul, you lose your identity, and you get fucked in the end because inevitably, if you're anything like my ex-husband, they're going to leave you anyway for one of his clients or some girl he picked up in a bar. And I have a sneaking suspicion these days I know who he was fucking on the side, because the more I think about it, there were signs and coincidences, and I'm sitting there thinking, I know who the fuck it was. I know who it was now, and he introduced me to her. This is my friend. And we went out for fucking drinks. And I'm like, you fucker. You absolute fucker. I know who this is. I know what you're doing. So I've got a bit of trauma relationship-wise. So I don't know if anyone could put up with that shit, to be honest. I have huge trust issues. I mean, can you imagine walking to a Christmas party and he's fucked half the clients there? Can you imagine? And of course you don't know, and you're getting introduced to them one by one like a fucking mug. This is so-and-so. Oh, your husband's so good at training people. Oh, isn't he wonderful? Oh, I love doing burpees. Oh, that's great. How do you know him so well? How do you know all this information of him? One of his clients had photos of him on her phone. And she showed me. She's like, oh, this is me and so-and-so. And I'll have a look through. And I'm flicking through going, why do you have so many pictures of my husband on your phone? And this is the one I confronted. This is the one I said, I'm having a bad time right now in my marriage. I need to know for clarity's sake, are you having an affair with my husband? And this is the only one I confronted. And I felt pretty ballsy for it, to be honest, because normally I would just take it. I'm not one for confrontation. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. I don't like the anger and the energy and the horrible negative feelings attached to it. But sometimes you just gotta fucking go for it, right? Because I was losing it at that point. I'm like, I've been with this guy for 16 years. He's fucking around with someone. I know he is. I've got signs everywhere around the house, marks on his body, hickeys on his neck. He said, what is fucking going on? And I confronted her, and I felt shit for it because she's denied it straight away. And I'm going, why do you have pictures of my husband on your phone? I mean, what is this? And he never came clean. He never came clean. So inevitably, besides the ultimatum that we had to have an open marriage, or he was going to leave me, that was the cinch. I'm like, fuck this, I'm out. I've done enough people pleasing in my marriage. I've done enough doormatting. I'm fucking out. So I am a bit aggressive about my personal space these days. I'm aggressively protective of my personal space, particularly boundaries and being made to do things that I don't want to do, because I did a lot of that when I was married. I did a lot of things just to keep the peace and to make them happy and to give them what they want at the cost of me. You know, I lost myself in that. And if you listen to any other podcast about I nearly said it, my C-word ex-husband. Are we not allowed to say cunt? Seriously? It's just like dick. I mean, seriously? Anyway, he was a cunty ex-husband. Yeah, there's a lot of information about what he did in those podcasts. He was not a good guy. He gave the facade of a nice guy, particularly in public, but getting home was a piece of shit. I've done enough people pleasing. I've had my boundaries crossed enough. I might be difficult to live with if you intend to disrespect me and expect me to ignore it, which is what my ex-boyfriend found out, who I'm pretty damn sure was not monogamous either. He just didn't want to admit it, and he thought he was good at lying. Meanwhile, I'm finding hair clips and, stick-on bloody rhinestones all around my fucking apartment, and extra wine glasses out, and, the rug looking like someone's been fucking on it and stuff like that. I'm sitting going, I know all these signs. I was married to one of these. And of course his calling card was, you're paranoid. You're being, catastrophizing it. Which means gaslighting. And I'm going to keep doing it anyway. I'm going to pretend that you're an idiot. And that you're insane and you don't know what you're seeing. And of course you're not seeing it. Ultimately, I never could trust him. I never got to trust him. And he would hold it against me. It's like, why don't you trust me? I'm going, because numerous fucking signs as to why not. I'm surprised I stayed with you this long. I'm too fucking forgiven. So again, my personal space, deeply, deeply protective of it. And my privacy. But that could be because I'm a Taurus, right? Definitely not trauma related. I love my privacy. But my issues with privacy come from my parents. I know that much because they were controlling. Because they had to know everything. My mum would not let me have anything that was mine. She knew everything. She would read my diary. There was no personal space for growth. There was no chance, no space for failure without consequence. This is why I stopped telling her anything. Besides the fact that every time I tell her something, it becomes a pissing contest. Mom, I'm a bit sick today. Oh, I've got a leg off. I was like, what? No, you haven't. Yes, I have. I went to the doctor. It's better now. But I could have died. Everything's a pissing contest. Everything. Even when I was in debt, homeless, and divorcing. Oh, your father's a bastard. I'm like, what the fuck, woman? Seriously? Have you any compassion for anyone in this world besides yourself? Oh, but look at me, my problems are way worse. It's like, fuck off. This is why I don't like going near them. I don't. If you come to them with a genuine problem, like my cousin sexually assaulting me, which he seemed to have no problem doing, that's another podcast I've already done, I think. I think it's coercion, if you want to look at that. She brushed it off. She absolutely brushed it off. She said, well, at least you weren't raised together. I'm sitting there going, you fucking kidding me? This is A, incest, B, sexual assault, coercive rape. It's like, what? At least you weren't raised together. Are you fucking serious? These people are insane. I don't know if, some days you question if they are your fucking parents. I really do. I'm sitting there going, how could a parent who is concerned for their child could be okay with this or brush it off so readily? And I worry. And that's one of the reasons I like being alone, and I don't like telling people stuff, and I don't feel comfortable telling people stuff, which is why these podcasts pretty much right now, thanks to the value of anonymity, are a fucking blessing, because I don't even like talking to therapists about this shit, to be honest. And I've done that. You feel horrible for it. And you feel like a bastard for pointing out their flaws, but at the same time, it's like, the only reason you feel like a bastard is because you've been raised to people please. So pointing out anything that's wrong, which could be misconstrued as an insult, you're seen as the enemy or the bad guy. And you're not the bad guy. If you're pointing out something is genuinely wrong with the situation, like your cousin deciding to get you drunk and, coercively rape you twice. Yeah, I didn't learn the first time. I thought I could trust him the second time. I was wrong. I was so wrong. He's a bastard. I haven't seen him since. But it's wrong. I mean, socially it's wrong. You should be allowed to say, this is wrong. It happened to me. I didn't like it. I am scarred by it now. And I admit I am scarred, but I've got all sorts of fucking PTS running around. It's not just shit from my childhood. It's stuff I picked up as an adult. Assault, rape, coercive rape, being burgled, being in car accidents, it's something you collect as an adult. Some of it's unavoidable. You don't really get a choice. But most of the time it's avoidable because, you avoid places or events that could do this. I don't know, I'm going off on a tangent again. But, these are the reasons why some people, me in particular, just don't like being around people. And for some reason, my family seem to think if we have a big dinner, it's going to be okay. And we all get along, pretend that none of it happened, and it's fine. And my siblings don't know all of the shit that's happened to me, and I wouldn't tell them anyway, to be honest. My brother is probably my closest sibling, and he doesn't know everything about me. He doesn't know everything that's happened to me. I gave up years ago trying to talk to my mum or my dad. My dad's been a fucking write-off for years. For years and years and years. I remember in a kid, I think I stole 50 cents off him, and he said, "Don't ever come to me for anything again." And I'm going, what the fuck, dude? I'm like 10. This is the kind of extremes he lived with. I wouldn't be surprised if he was BPD. I wouldn't be surprised. The way he went berserker, I would not be surprised if he's undiagnosed borderline personality. So I'm adamant that might be it. But he didn't give a fuck. And it's just no social support growing up. My friends are off. What friends I did make and did manage to maintain are all off in different states of Australia, doing their thing. And we've all got our own lives, so you're pretty much on your own, really, as an adult. It's not a problem if you're as hyper independent as I am, thanks to my parents. But I do tend to like living alone. It works for me. I don't have to put up with anyone's shit. I get to put my quirks into play because, you know, autism has its own set of fun games. And changes just aren't great. I don't know if that's the PTS or the autism speaking, but it works together to make me really not like plans getting changed. So, you know, it's one of the values of living alone. I would say if you're talking about alpha and sigma sort of terms, I know I'm a sigma, but I couldn't tell you explicitly what started it or created it, or if it's a natural inclination or if it's a conditioned response. But I do enjoy being alone. My brother, on the other hand, is an alpha. He likes to lead, but he needs the group to follow him. I can't do that. People give me the shits. I like to lead, but I like to do it on my own terms. And I couldn't give a fuck if anyone comes with me, to be honest, but we're going to lead anyway, and this is where we're going. We're heading forward. But some people got the hang of it. Some people are born followers. My ex-boyfriend was a born follower. His north node was to lead. If you go into the birth charts and things like that, his purpose in life was to lead. He has a Leo north node. But he's so wedged up up people's asses trying to fit in. And I think it's some residual thing from high school, to be honest, where he just wants to fit in with other people and go along with the crowd. And it's like, there has to be a balance. If that's not your north node in itself, there has to be a balance where you both lead and submit in that mid ground. I mean, I like leading because I'm stubborn and I've got my own way of doing things. I could care less who comes with me, to be honest. If you want to come, come. If you don't, fuck off then. I don't care. Either way, there's going to be snacks and a lot of laying down sleeping. Yeah, but that's I just like doing that. But there's perks to living alone, I will say that. Do I miss living with people? No. No, I don't. Do I get lonely? Sometimes. Because I remember what it was like to live with a husband, and it was nice to have someone to come home to. I do admit that, which is why I'm still open to getting married again, I think. There is some value to having some people around, but again, as I said, one other person is enough. I can't see myself full of a house full of kids or extended relatives again like that. It sounds traumatizing to me because there's so much noise and fuss and mess. I will pass on that. So if you've got any kind of insight into that, I'd love to hear about it. If you want to leave it in the comments, that'd be great. But it's not all, people think you're lonely all the time. I'm going, well, no, I'm not, because, you know, like Keanu says, you can take yourself out to dinner and lunch and things like that if you wanted to. You're never really alone in your head, especially with all the voices. But we're great. We get on like a house on fire. But you know, you don't have to worry about being alone. There's nothing wrong with that. And in itself, if you are alone, you do tend to find more introspective time. You start to think about what kinds of things you actually like, rather than depending on what other people say you should like or should behave like. Or, you know, my ex-husband customized me completely because he's an overt narc, and I had to look and act and be a certain way because I was his wife. I was PT's wife, and, you know, was a fucking nightmare. I did things that were completely against my personality and my belief systems just to make him happy. It's just because I thought that was my job as a wife, to be his, a compliment to him. And in a sense, you should be as a wife. And as a husband, you should be a compliment to your wife. It should be a duality, an even spread. That doesn't mean that you lose yourself in trying to make the other person happy. If you two come together and you are so different in that you can't find any kind of a compromise, or if they don't love parts of you, like if you're saying, like if you come into a relationship and you're a druggie, right? And you're saying to yourself, even though it's toxic for the relationship, obviously it is, what drugs are not toxic for them? It's like, I'm on meth, but only on the weekend. If you're saying, this is me, I'm not dropping this, but the other person's saying, this is very bad for us, I can't do this, then don't stay together. There's no point trying to compromise on that. But if it's a case of, I don't know, fucking dress sense or where you go out to dinner or something like that, or, like mini quirks that are annoying. I'm not saying overtly act like a pig like my ex-husband did, but, small things like leaving the toilet seat up. That is compromisable. Who cares about a fucking toilet seat, right? That is not a deal breaker, but you shouldn't be together in the first place if you can't find a mid-ground. It's clearly obvious, because everything that's pissed you off at the start is going to be amplified by the time you get married, and then that's going to be the reason why you leave, if not something completely disastrous like, I don't know, ultimatums about open relationships. It's like, I didn't see that one coming. That was completely out of left field. So I'm going, what the fuck? 16 years? What the fuck, dude? It blew my mind, that one. He really got me there. I'm going, what the fuck? This is so out of character. Anyway, find the value in what you see in life, to be honest. Because if you want to live alone, and some people don't have a choice, you're going to need to understand the value of you. You're going to find a hell of a lot more introspective points to yourself that are of value. You're going to find out what you like, what you want to do, what you want to be, how you want to think. Your values and morals are going to be more clearly defined. And to be honest, alone time is valuable for setting the foundation for what you're going to be in a relationship as well. If you long-term want to get married or get into a relationship, you're going to need to know who you are rather than what you think the other person wants you to be. You've got to build that foundation first, because then you can step up to the plate when you meet this person and say, this is what I actually am. These are my horrible habits, and I've done it before. I've got a few horrible habits. There's a whole podcast on it. Can you negotiate with these? Can you find a way to accept these? And the other person needs to do the same. Because if you're lying to yourself right at the start of the fucking relationship, it's just going to get worse from there. It's like, oh, that's fine that you drink excessively. Oh, it's fine, it's fine, it's a social thing. Or it's fine that you smoke weed. Oh, it's fine, never mind that you don't stop fucking smoking weed. Now all the rent money's gone because you won't stop fucking smoking. Small things that are not compromisable really in the long term, because they're going to destroy the fucking relationship. But you've got to be absolutely honest with who you are at the start, and you're only going to find that by being alone and being okay with being alone at the start, before you even get involved with anyone else, before you start thinking about making some kind of a alliance, I want to say, with another person, because it is alliance. It is a two, I want to say, in political terms, it's two nations coming together to share resources and for a common goal. A coalition, maybe, if it was two. If you're if you're not monogamous, if you're polyamorous, it's a coalition. Just think of the Commonwealth. It's a big orgy of politics. Gross. No, I can't do that. I'm monogamous. But no, it's an alliance. You are coming together as two independent adults to try and build something, essentially, an empire if you can. Two independent empires, maybe, if your heart's set on that. Two people might be interested in different things, but you want to support each other in their building of their own area. When I end up with someone, I would like maybe a mix. I've got my own empire already starting, establishing and spreading out, and I want to see what they're into, and maybe we can form some kind of project together. I've always loved projects. But I'm assuming they're going to have their own gig, It's like, I'm not going to expect you to follow me around and do what I say. So alone time is absolutely valuable when it comes to understanding who you are and what you want out of life and out of the relationship, and you should value it. It's not a time to be scared and desperate that you're going to be alone forever, because inevitably you won't. You're always going to find someone who wants to hang around with you. If it's not like a lover, it's like a sibling or a friend or just a guy standing at a bus stop. He's like, hey guy, and you're like, hey, let's make friends. It's like, that's how you do it. It's as simple as that. Try not to find the crazy ones on meth though. They're a bit scary. I've done that before. Yeah, they scream at you. They scream at you, or they wander off. It's a mix. It's a mix. The town I used to live in, it was wonderful. But you know, it's easy. And know yourself, because you're going to be stuck with yourself regardless. There's nothing wrong with being alone. It's never permanent. Everything is temporary. So I want you guys to have a fantastic day. I'm going to have to leave it there because I'm sweating in my car. It's like 40 degrees in Australia right now. Whew. And I'm going to go into my shops because I've got some jobs to do. But you've been fantastic, and I hope you have a fantastic... Ooh, it's Monday. Monday. All right, take it easy, okay? It's not that hard. You can do this. I know you've got this. And I'll see you on the podcast home.
Music, what you really hear when you hear melody is the interval between one tone and another. Steps, as it were, on the scale. It's the interval. So in the same way, in the intervals between this year's leaves, last year's leaves, this